Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Paulette Sedlak. I'm your host today on this Memorial Day weekend. I hope you have a chance to celebrate. It's such a special day set aside for those who have given their lives in service for us, for our country. So very special to recognize them that really are fallen soldiers. So just I want to make sure to mention that today. And if you have past loved ones that you've lost, then this May is actually emotional health month. So I think there's no better time to cover the topic I'll be speaking to today, and that is how to guard your emotions through the corona crisis. But it's also for whatever you go through in life, emotions in life. We've all gone through things. And so today, I want to explain to you what emotions do to your body, what's happening in your body. And then I'm going to give you some very practical, extremely practical information and share a personal story with you. So you want to stay to the end. This is a short session. And I'm just so happy to have you here today. So thanks for taking time out of your schedule. I know your time is very valuable. So emotions cause real physiological changes in your body. And, they affect your muscle tone, your heart rate, they affect your posture, your facial expression, and much more. So, emotions aren't just thoughts, they actually create chemical reactions in your body. They can result in a rise in your blood pressure, your heart rate. And you probably heard some very common sayings like I remember growing up that people would commonly say this saying. And tell me if you've heard this. So you can actually type in the chat box. So, one of the things I'd hear my parents say or other people say, and they'd say, get on. So that was something that was very commonly said, or don't get so upset, it'll raise your blood pressure. But what about all the things that are happening in your life? What about all the things that are going on in the world? How can you guard your emotions through the corona pandemic or for any other stressful time that you may encounter in your life? So today I'm going to share the most practical and true ways for you to guard your emotions. So I understand you may have many challenges in your life during this time. Maybe you've lost your job, someone who lost their job. Maybe you have family that is suffering with an illness. Maybe you're suffering. So whatever state you find yourself in, you may have an emotional response. And that's really quite normal. So emotions are not bad in themselves. However, they are not designed to control you. Now, this has become a real problem according to the media. Have you heard on many of the news channels and shows, they say that a lot of people are suffering with mental health issues due to the corona pandemic. And I haven't heard them say much regarding how to remedy this issue. So, of course, if you suffer with an anxiety disorder or you have gone through trauma, whether it's mental or physical, this can all take a toll on your emotions. So, I understand. And I want you to know that I am not opposed to anyone taking medications that are absolutely necessary for specific conditions. Sometimes medications are absolutely necessary, nor am I opposed to seeking counsel from a qualified practitioner. What I am recommending, whether you need these or not, one who comforts you during emotional times. And also learn to not let your emotions become like a runaway train on a fast track that is controlling your actions and decisions in your life. I've heard some pretty horrendous stories during this time. People are actually locking themselves in their house. They are washing their hands until their hands are bleeding. This is not normal reaction. This is paranoia. This is the emotions gone wild on that runaway freight train. So I don't want this to happen to you. This is a time to be, very sensible. This is time to be calm. This is an opportunity to be calm and actually take charge of your emotions and guard your emotions. You need to guard yourself. So the first graphic that I want to show you is Proverbs 4:23. And this states that above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And this is what we must do. But to accomplish this clear command to guard your heart, you must first place Proverbs 4:23 in the context of your life. So your heart is the seat from which all actions are derived. Principles of what you believe are formed in your heart, and what you expose yourself to in life, what you encounter in life, and how you respond to it all flow from your heart. So your actions are regulated and dominated by your heart. And it is important for you to guard your heart to what you hear, who you associate yourself with, and in all matters of life. So I'll introduce a special person that was in my life to you. I want to introduce my dad to you. So that's the next picture. This is a picture of my dad. And this was actually, a cutout because where he was staying at the time, they took a picture of him and they kind of had it in something, and I took it out of there. So I took a picture of him. Now this is a picture of when my dad was 97 years old, and he looked pretty pleasant, had all his hair. he was he, he was I would say. So this week marks 13 years since my dad has passed. And I want to tell you a little bit about him. He drove a car and was cutting grass until he was 93. He was never on any regular medications in his life, and he was almost 98 when he died from an accident. So, what was his secret? What was his secret? So many people, ask me, what was his secret? He lived to be almost 100 years old, and he was really kind of comical in his own way because he would say, where he was staying, that the people around him were. And I'd say, well, what are you? And he said, well, I'm not like them. So, and he kind of smiled. So, your first thought may be that he had good genetics. That's what a lot of people have said to me. Well, he had 8 brothers and 1 sister. And in addition, I was told there were 1 or 2 babies that died as infants. I think maybe one was a year old or 2. I mean, it was hard to get the story straight because everybody was so much older, and my parents were so much older. They had me later in life. So all his siblings that lived to be adults died at a much earlier age than him. So much for genetics. Now, he did have one brother that lived to be in his 90s, but my dad outlived him. A lot of his siblings died when they were in their early 70s. So anyone who knew my dad would tell you that he was not an emotional man and that he did not worry. And when I tell you he did not worry, I mean he did not worry. I'm not anyone like this. Okay. So I learned a lot from just observing him. He was a practical man. He was a no frills, nothing fancy about him, and he lived during the time of the Spanish flu in 1918. So he experienced a lot in life. He would tell me stories. He remembers when horse and buggies were still going down the road and there was just a few cars and, people didn't have phones in their house. Can you imagine that? Now, if you tell a young person there was no cell phones at what time, they're like, what? How did you exist? So I mean, people have been without phones all over the place and televisions all over the place. So also, he wasn't a big talker, and he was a bottom line kind of person. So when I was much younger, I remember how I would want to engage in a conversation with him, and it usually ended up with me saying a lot and him saying only a few words. So when I was in chiropractic college, one time I came home for a break. I went to chiropractic college in Georgia, and I was so stressed. I was a student. I worked part time and I studied for several hours every day. And I was explaining to my dad how stressed I was, and I was just so emotional about this. And he listened attentively to everything I had to say. Then he said, in his very calm way, he said, "Why are you worrying?" Well, once again, I explained the whole dilemma like I did the first time, as if he didn't hear me. And once again, he asked, "Why are you worrying?" Now, this time he said it with a bewildered look on his face. So I paused to hear what he was going to say next. And he calmly asked me, "Does worrying make it better?" And I said, "Well, no." And he said, "Does worrying fix it?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Why worry?" And that was it. That was the end of the conversation. So I want to emphasize to you the gravity of what he said because he was right on a very practical, this is the bottom line, practical takeaway on this point. Worrying and being emotional about a situation doesn't change anything but your health and probably the health and emotions of those around you. So worry does not and never did fix anything or make anyone feel better about a situation. That's a fact. So, what does God say about worrying? Well, let's take a look at the next image of Philippians 4 6, where it states, be anxious for nothing, but in all things, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. And that is really God's viewpoint on worrying. So God knows what you're going through. He knows what you're feeling. He understands the struggles that you have had, and those you will encounter before they ever happen. So the next graphic is Hebrews 5. And this is very comforting, I think, for everyone at all times when you're going through something, because it says, God actually said that He will never leave you nor forsake you. He will never leave you without help. No, not ever. Never. He will never let down His grip on you. And I'm telling you, my beloved friend, you are never alone. God is always with you. And you may feel emotional sometime, but God understands what you're going through. So, you just don't want those emotions over in your life. So, in the next graphic, I want to show you a picture that I took last week. And one day last week, it was extremely sunny and it was raining all at the same time. And it was just absolutely beautiful. And the rain almost glistened. It's almost like you could, I just felt like, gosh, I feel like I could almost see every drop of rain that's coming down. And it almost looked iridescent because the sun was so bright. And I walked behind my house and I looked up and I saw this amazing rainbow. In Genesis 9:13, God gave the rainbow as a sign after the flood that occurred with Noah. And the rainbow was his covenant between him and the earth. He actually made a covenant with the earth. How cool is that? So it reminded me that we are never alone and God is always with us. So knowing that alone is reason enough to have a little faith. So the takeaway today is to guard your heart, guard your thoughts, and remember the rainbow and look up. Look up. So, if you would like to keep informed with the latest information on health, this is emotional health, spiritual health, physical health, then I have so much information to present to you. So, you can sign up at nutritionwithdoc.com. And in the very near future, I am going to share so much information on how you can lose those extra pounds that I know most of you have gained during your stay at home. So many people said to me, absolutely, you need to start addressing this. One person told me everybody they know has gained 15 pounds while staying at home. So you're also receiving important information about how you can boost your energy to change your health and decrease inflammation in your body that causes pain, cancer, blocked arteries, fibromyalgia, and so much more. So you're going to receive that energy report as soon as you sign up. So if you're not on the list, absolutely go to nutritionwithdoc.com and you are going to get the latest information and my latest tips. I'll be giving recipes and special tips for the summer, gardening tips, how to use your herbs, my special recipes, and so much more. So thank you so much for tuning in today and have a wonderful Memorial Day and God bless.